something new is emerging and it's our inner spring. I'm so excited to be exploring the follicular phase this week because the follicular phase is our inner spring. And where I live here in Vermont, it is physically spring around us. One of the things I really love to do is that when I am at a certain phase in my menstrual cycle, during the physical season that it is, I really love to do ritual to honor the physical season while that season is happening internally in my body, because we really only have a few weeks where our inner seasons are matching with the physical seasons around us. So, what is your inner spring? If you want to hear a little bit more of an overview of cycle syncing and all of the different cycles of your menstrual phase, you can watch my Cycle Syncing 101 video. Today, we're really exploring our follicular phase. And our follicular phase is that time right after our periods where our bodies are waking up and they're really starting to bloom. During this phase, your follicles are starting to grow and your energy levels are starting to rise, and you're starting to bring and awaken to the surface that creative energy, the fluidity, all of that movement that has been resting and turning inward during your luteal and menstrual phase. So during our follicular phase, we really want to honor that spring awakening and all that is being awakened and arising in our bodies. And we can start to bring in some more lightly steamed vegetables and foods that are really just honoring spring. And so one of the ways that I love to do this is by making a special tea to really honor and mark this turning point where I'm coming out of the inner winter, my menstrual phase, and coming into my inner spring. And I can just really feel that energy so much right now, just having come out of, I feel like, one of the most intense winters that I've experienced in a long time, and really starting to feel the warmth of spring and the birds and everything. So let's make a tea together and just really honor this sacred time. So today we're going to be making our honoring spring follicular tea, and I'm going to teach you how to make two different herbal preparations. So we're going to be making a herbal infusion and a tea, and then we mix them together each day during our follicular phase. And so an herbal infusion is when you are steeping herbs in water for a prolonged period of time. So that could be overnight, it could be 6 hours. There are hot infusions and there are cold infusions. So a cold infusion would be where you put the plant in the water and you let it steep for like 6 hours, but you're using cold water. And you might do that with plants like marshmallow or plants that have more of a mucilaginous or slimy quality to bring out those types of energies. So today we're going to be working with a hot infusion. So we're going to make an infusion of raspberry and nettle. Those are two herbs that do really well with a hot infusion for 6 hours or steeping overnight to really bring out a lot of the vitamins and minerals of the plant so that we can really get the most out of them. And then we're going to be making a tea using ginger, hibiscus, and goji berries. Because our infusion is going to be sitting for 6 hours, when we get it in the morning, it's going to be like room temperature, but then we're going to pour half of that into a cup, and then we're going to pour half of the hot tea that we're making into it so that we have a delicious, warm, nourishing, revitalizing, awakening tea. So let's first talk a little bit about the plants that we're using before we make our infusion, and then we'll get into it. So raspberry leaf is one of my favorite plants to work with, especially for people who bleed and who experience hormone imbalance and heavy bleeding and cramping and things like that during their period and throughout the month. Raspberry leaf is an antispasmodic, and what that means is that it's really supportive for relieving and easing cramping. It also helps to tone and strengthen the uterus, and it's rich in vitamins like iron, which is really great to be drinking after your menstrual phase to help to rebuild rebuild some of the iron that was lost through all of the bleeding that we just did. Raspberry leaf is also filled with a lot of really amazing vitamins, including iron, which is great because we lose so much blood during our menstrual phase. Replenishing those iron stores with raspberry leaf really helps to support us with that energy that's now coming into awakening and really boosting our energy. Raspberry leaf is also filled with vitamin B6, which is really great because that is something that can really support us in balancing our hormones. And red raspberry leaf also helps to slow heavy bleeding. So I have found it to be really amazing as somebody who has experienced anxiety, heavy bleeding, and a lot of cramping. I take red raspberry leaf as I've shared in the menstrual video, and it's one of the herbs that I work with the most and has had such a nourishing and supportive impact on my health. So hopefully if you're struggling with some of these things, this will be a really nourishing tea for you. Next, we have nettles. As I've said before, nettles to me is like your multivitamin. It's really filled with all of the things that your body really needs to be well, but also it's a great source of iron and magnesium. This helps to restore your energy and replenish some of the minerals lost from losing blood during your menstrual phase. So nettles is a really great herb for the follicular phase. Nettles is also a diuretic, which means it makes you pee. This action can be helpful, that detoxification and flushing action, to help to flush excess hormones out of our body. But you also want to be making sure that you're drinking enough water and staying hydrated because it is something that's going to be flushing fluids from your body. Nettles is also a really drying plant, so I often love to pair it with plants that are moistening because my constitution tends to be really dry. I get dry skin, dry tissues. Nettles really dries me out unless I pair it with something like marshmallow. We're also going to be adding hibiscus to this tea. Hibiscus is one of my favorite. I keep saying that about, I like, for this tea I literally picked all of my favorite herbs, so I feel like every herb I'm like, this is one of my favorite herbs, because it is. I just put all of my favorite plants into this tea because I think that you will love it. But hibiscus is a really great plant. It's filled with vitamin C and antioxidants. It's used in the Caribbean for so many things, but one of the things that it does is it helps to cool down your body, so it's often drinking in the summertime and warm months. It also helps to move blood flow. Hibiscus is really supportive to our nervous systems. It's also a really great grief plant and helps to move blood flow from the heart and allow that fluid circulation movement to happen. And I find a lot of grief in the luteal phase and the menstrual phase for myself. So having that really heartwarming, loving hibiscus coming in and helping to move some of that grief that I just processed and worked through, I find to be really supportive. And we're also going to be adding fresh ginger. I love pairing hibiscus and ginger together because hibiscus is a really cooling plant and ginger is really warming. And so you don't want to have really a bunch of cooling plants like hibiscus at one time because it can lead to diarrhea and kind of loosening the stool and things like that. So I love to pair it with warming plants to really counteract that, especially if you're using it during times of the month where it's not super, super hot, like right now when it's springtime. Ginger brings in warmth. It's really calming. It's really soothing for our bellies and our gut. And so with our menstrual phase where we're experiencing that tightness and that cramping, I feel like ginger is a great plant to bring in to start to open up and bringing in a little bit more ease. I also personally drink ginger during my luteal and menstrual phase because I have experienced long COVID, so sometimes I'll get shortness of breath during my period if my vitamin and mineral count is off. And ginger is actually a really good plant for helping to decrease inflammation in the lungs. So it can be really supportive for people who experience shortness of breath or anything like that. So ginger just brings a lot of warmth, a lot of calm internally. It's very nourishing and really sets us up for a very vibrant and balanced follicular phase. And lastly, we have goji berries, which I just love goji berries. I think they're so delicious. They are often used in traditional Chinese medicine and they're used for building blood and restoring yin. So they're a great medicine to work with after our periods. They're filled with antioxidants, which are so important, which really help us to build healthy follicles, healthy eggs, healthy uterine health. They help to rebuild the uterine lining, and they're just really, really nourishing and beautiful and delicious. So that's what's going to be in our inner spring follicular phase tea. So let's go make our tea. That is so, so delicious. So beautiful. I love the taste of the floral, flowery notes of the hibiscus with the goji berries. And I love the pairing of just like the subtle nature of the nettles and the raspberry. I feel like all of these are just like really, I experience these herbs as like wise old elders. And then hibiscus feels like this bright, colorful, youthful, vibrant flower to me. So just feeling that energy of the elders kind of like pulling us out of the menstrual phase, the winter, which is really kind of like the crone time, into this hibiscus spring energy. It's just like, I love all of the notes of this tea. It just feels so springy. And then the reason that I like to put the fresh ginger in and have it in the pot with the hibiscus and the goji berries instead of decocting it, which is what you would generally do with a root, you would generally kind of like low boil it for 30 minutes. But I love putting it to steep with the hibiscus and the goji berries in this drink because I just love the taste where it's just like this light in the background, very faint, spicy ginger vibe that comes through. And I just love it. It's just so beautiful. So I added a little bit of honey because I just love sweetness, obviously. You can do it with honey, you can do it without honey. And I love to make this tea and then just do a little ritual like the first day or within the first few days of my follicular phase. I'll just find a nice place to sit. Especially in the spring, I'll do it outside and just sit with a tree, smell the air, notice the dandelions, and just feel the energy of all the plants. And just knowing like nettles is one of the spring plants, so nettles is emerging, the dandelions, and just knowing some of these spring plants that are emerging that are in my cup. Raspberry leaf is starting to come up in the spring as well. So just feeling the energy of those plants, and as I just sit on the land and honor the follicular phase in this beautiful spring energy. And I just wanted to share with you, when you're making your infusion, I showed you two different things. I showed you how to make a long infusion and then how to make a tea. And so in this drink, you would make your long infusion like in a quart-sized mason jar, and then you can refrigerate that and keep it for, 2 or 3 days. And then each day you could make your tea with hibiscus and ginger and goji berries. And then you would just pour half of the infusion with half of the tea in a cup and just drink it that way. And honestly, you could just mix all of these herbs together and create a tea each day without doing the long infusion. You'll have less vitamins and minerals from the raspberry and nettle if you do it that way, but it will still be really delicious. And if you don't have lots of time to like really invest in all all of these infusions and all these different things, it's perfectly fine to just mix them all up and make a tea. Sometimes I'll do that, especially if I'm having a month where I'm just like not into it. I'm just really tired. I'll actually make my tea blends ahead of time. So I'll just get like a bag and I'll mix, nettles, raspberry, all of these things. You can even get dried ginger. It will taste a lot stronger, but you can mix them all into a bag. So then once your follicular phase comes, or each phase, you already have them blended and you can just throw it in a cup and let it steep for like 10 to 15 minutes. That's a perfectly fine way to do it. And really, you'll still have that full energy of the ritual, which is so much of the healing. And you'll still have some of the vitamins and minerals. They just won't be as potent as if you were doing a long infusion. One of the things I love about our journey with cycle syncing is that this is really a practice that when you first start doing this, it might feel confusing or a lot or a bit overwhelming because you're not used to it. But over time, just imagine like you're going to be preparing these teas every month. You're going to be engaging in and creating rituals for yourself every month. So over time, you really will get used to it and it will feel easeful. It will feel like pouring a bowl of cereal to you. And it will just bring so much magic to your cycle. These times where our energy and our hormones and emotions are shifting, it can feel like a lot. So being able to have these rituals that we can lean on throughout our cycle and throughout each of these phases, I feel is such a great way to really hold our bodies and make our bodies know that they are loved and cared for as we go through these different ebbs and flows. So I hope that this video felt nourishing to you, and I hope that you really enjoy making your follicular phase tea. I hope that you enjoy your rituals, and please share them in the comments below. I would love to hear how this is sitting with you, and if you have rituals or practices that you love to do during your follicular phase, please share them. And if you haven't already, please subscribe so that we can continue building community together. And I hope that you have a wonderful day, night, evening, week, and I will see you next Thursday. Bye, love.